At the family dinner, my parents smirked, "Tomorrow we're moving into your house." No excuses. The daughter they always took advantage of smiled and replied, "Fine, but don't forget to bring $860,000 by morning." Their faces turned pale at that moment. "Hey, Reddit, tomorrow we're moving into your house." No excuses. The words dropped like stone across the dinner table. My sister smirked. Her boyfriend nodded, smug and certain. I set down my fork, pull steady, smile, sharper. My name is Brenda Foster, 30 years old. I built a tech startup from coffee, code, and grit. I traded sleep and years for something that was mine. They thought success meant I'd carry them forever. They were wrong. Stick around. What happened next? Burned their plan to ashes. Before we dive in, tell me where you're watching from. They expected shelter. I gave them a price tag. Greenville looked gentle. Our house did not. Inside, love bent toward my sister. I learned to live in corners. She got private school and praise. I got rules and reminders. They called her gifted even with C's. They called me reliable even when breaking. A red convertible appeared for her birthday. I walked to class with second-hand books. They called it an investment in creativity. They called mine learning to be tough. She borrowed my babysitting money. Never returned it. When I asked, she laughed. "You're stingy, Brenda," she said. My parents nodded like judges. I fixed leaks while they attended openings. I tutored weekends to cover fees. She posted rooftops and gelato and new shoes. I posted grades and shifts and silence. London called with a partial scholarship. Then the hospital called with a bill. "Your sister's too young to help." They said, "We need you this time." I gave up the ticket and dream. I rang groceries under humming lights. They thanked me once, then praised her painting. At school, I stopped auditioning for approval. I opened a secret savings account. I studied until numbers studied me. I worked until mornings blurred into headlights. Independence wasn't a choice. It was survival with receipts. Graduation came with aching feet. Hers came with a catered party. They danced. I planned an exit. Invisible daughters learned to map doorways. When they finally toured my startup, they smiled strangely. Not pride. Calculation. Like appraising a couch. How much are your shares worth? Family helps family, right? The sentence bruised. More than chores. Help me. Family meant theirs. I drove home counting streetlights, counting sacrifices. I kept highly the way accountants breathe. Have you ever faced something like this? Tell me in the comments. Some nights I heard their words echo. You're strong. You'll manage. She needs support. Strength became the reason love arrived last. I wasn't their daughter. I was the plan they budgeted for. I built my future from leftovers and late shifts. Mornings smelled like diner coffee and bus exhaust. Nights hummed with code bugs and blue light. 5 hours of sleep felt like a luxury. At campus, I chased problems like they owed me money. Spreadsheets at dawn, data structures at dusk. I didn't glow. I ground. That's when I met Daniel. He fixed laptops for gas money and textbooks. He understood the math of survival. Cheap tacos, shared earbuds, deadlines like storm sirens. He never called me stubborn. He called me relentless and meant it kindly. Healthcare tech hooked me on a rainy week. Remote monitoring, quiet dashboards, real lives behind numbers. I interned at a scrappy Greenville startup. Second-hand chairs, flickering lights, ridiculous dreams. I scraped together $2,000 in tips. I invested like it was bail money. If it failed, at least I tried. We built ugly prototypes that actually worked. We bribed testers with pizza and patience. 10,000 users arrived like a rumor. A local hospital signed a pilot. I graduated to full-time at a wobbly desk. Intern lead to equity. Not luck. Ledger, not miracle. Math. At 27, I bought a small apartment. 1 bedroom, a window with morning courage, sofa from Craigslist, joy, brand new. No one's name on the deed, but mine. When my family toured the office, smiles tilted wrong. They weren't admiring, they were measuring. How big is the valuation now? How much are your shares worth? Family helps family, remember. Warm words, cold hands, and moving targets. That night, Daniel watched me pace grooves. It isn't pride, he said. It's procurement. The word landed like a gavel, not daughter. Supply chain. Aunt Carol called with the missing column. Your parents are $50,000 in credit cards, she whispered. Loft rent, trips, Lori studio fees. Paris again. I pressed the phone to my eyes. It smelled like pennies and rain. Then I heard my father in the hallway. He thought I'd left already. Brenda's place is big. He told someone, we'll move in. Save rent. She can chip in more. It's only fair. Fair felt like swallowing a nail. I opened my laptop and counted years. Babysitting money that never returned. Scholarships surrendered to hospital bills. Leaky sinks, closed tabs, closed doors. I could build value. I could also build walls. I met Patrick, a calm, careful lawyer. We spoke in contingencies and fire breaks. We mapped the cleanest, tightest exit. Transfer my stake. Lock the proceeds. $860,000. Paper armor. A future with gates. If you've been through this, you're not alone. Love without boundaries is a siphon with lace. I signed the first documents with steady hands. I slept that night like a switched-off server. Morning would bring their demand and my reply. They thought I was a faucet. I was building a valve. Saturday night smelled of garlic and tension at Magnolia's Bistro. Candlelight flickered across polished menus. But my family's eyes gleamed sharper. Daniel sat beside me, steady as a handrail. Aunt Carol watched from the end, lips pressed tight. My father leaned forward, voice smooth with certainty. Brenda, we've decided tomorrow we're moving into your apartment. My mother's smile curled. It's what families do. No excuses. Lori swiped her phone, smirked, and nodded like royalty. Brian twirled pasta, already tasting the free rent. I set down my fork and folded my napkin, my pulse speed slow like a countdown. That's fine, I said calmly. Just bring $860,000. The table froze, glasses halfway, forks arrested midair. My father's jaw stiffened, eyes wide. My mother blinked, smile collapsing. Lori dropped her phone. Brian's fork clattered. They hadn't expected resistance. They had expected my silence, my compliance. Lori recovered first, voice sharp and poisonous. You're selfish, Brenda. Always hoarding, always jealous. Brian sneered. What? You think you're better than us? Their venom slithered across the table, familiar and stale. My father leaned closer, voice cold. You're turning your back on family. Everyone will hear about this. My mother dabbed at tears that weren't there. After everything we sacrificed for you, she whispered. Sacrifices. I remembered London fading into grocery aisles. Babysitting money borrowed, never returned. Hospital bills signed in my name. While she danced under confetti, I counted coins. I met their stares and didn't blink. You mean the sacrifices I made? I said, I'm done being your safety net. Daniel's hand slid into mine, solid and warm. Aunt Carol nodded slowly, pride softening her features. The walls of that restaurant shifted. For once, they weren't towering over me. I was looking them in the eye, Lori muttered, ungrateful. My mother sniffled louder, performance rising. My father's glare promised thunder, but thunder is only noise without lightning. And I held the strike. They thought they could claim my home. They thought entitlement was inheritance. But I had already closed the door, already signed the papers, already locked the vault. The silence at the table tasted sweet. It tasted like steel, like survival, like freedom. They wanted walls. I gave them a price, and I didn't flinch. That night, I stopped being their fallback and became their reckoning. The storm hit Monday before coffee cooled. Lori posted tears and captions like sharpened knives. Brenda abandoned family, she wrote. Greedy tech girl won't help her parents. Comments stacked like wet newspapers. Old classmates shared, then judged, then unfriended. I didn't reply. Feeding fires is still feeding. By noon, Aunt Carol texted screenshots. Let it burn out, she advised. Truth doesn't need gasoline. I muted the world and opened work. Then my lobby erupted. Where's Brenda? My father boomed, red and shaking. My mother trailed, waving arms, voice high with accusation. We deserve our share of this. Keyboard stilled, heads rose in waves. Daniel stood calm as a raincoat. Not here, I said, stepping forward. This is a workplace. Leave now. They escalated. I did not. Security walked them out. My mother wailing. You'll regret this, Brenda. Echoed down the corridor. My cheeks burned, but my spine didn't. I booked a conference room and called Patrick. Documents are airtight. He confirmed, flipping metaphorical pages. No basis for any claim. Relief arrived like a chair finally offered. I exhaled and called Sharon. Keep moving, she said, crisp and certain. We shipped the beta Friday, eyes forward. That night, I blocked their numbers. Silence didn't feel empty. It felt like oxygen rediscovered. I slept without checking doors twice. Morning brought collateral gossip and fewer allies. That's how pruning works. What falls wasn't rooted. What stays is strong. Aunt Carol called with a ledger of consequences. Second mortgage, new furniture, another trip. They're drowning and still blaming you, she said. Guilt tried the handle. The door was locked. We sprinted on the product. Sharon hammered timelines. I refactored the hardest parts. Daniel brought tacos and kindness. Left judgment outside. Our tiny team found momentum like wind. Hospitals asked for demos. Clinics asked for pilots. We hired 3 developers with hungry hearts. Meanwhile, Lori's story fractured. Her boyfriend left after a money war. Posts shifted from glitz to quiet corners. My parents sold the house I grew up in. A retirement apartment replaced nostalgia with linoleum. They still grumbled, and Carol said. But even thunder gets tired. I kept receipts, not resentment. I kept boundaries like guardrails and rain. When doubt whispered at midnight, I answered with math. Years carried, bills paid, dreams surrendered. A single dinner didn't start this. A single decision finally ended it. If you faced public shaming wrapped in family, I see you. Tell me in the comments. You're not alone here. Some of us learn late. All of us can learn. I didn't choose cruelty. I chose clarity in a locked gate. Not to keep love out, to keep my life intact. I cut the rope and built a bridge only I can lower. 6 months later, the noise finally dimmed. We married in the park by the river. Aunt Carol cried softly. I didn't. Relief feels different than grief. Our apartment smelled like cardboard and new plans. Daniel hung photos with patient hands. We set rules for our future. Honesty first, boundaries second. Everything else can wait its turn. With Sharon, I rebuilt on clearer ground. We shipped the mental wellness upgrade on schedule. Clinic signed, hospitals called, and users stayed. Success didn't feel like armor now. It felt like breath. I invested wisely, not for approval. No secret lifelines. No emergency transfers to keep chaos pretty. Money followed purpose, not pressure. Aunt Carol kept the family weather report. Lori moved into a studio. Clocked reliable hours. Her feed turned human. Coffee mugs. Sunsets, not trophies. Brian vanished like a bad caption. My parents sold the brick house and downsized. Linoleum floors. Simpler meals. Shorter stories. They still muttered my name sometimes, Carol said. But even thunder learns to rain itself out. On quiet nights, I walked the neighborhood loop. I counted porch lights instead of old debts. Freedom wasn't fireworks. It was the steady hum. Doors that closed and stayed closed. Forgiveness arrived like cautious weather. Not a parade, not an eraser, a boundary held, and a heart unclenched. I didn't owe them payment for peace. If you've been through this, you're not alone. Have you ever faced something like this? Tell me in the comments. We can learn new ways to love. Here's what I know now. Strength isn't the reason you should be punished. Generosity without limits turns holy water to flood. Love without respect becomes a leash. Choose the gate. Choose the key. Choose yourself without apology. I didn't abandon my family. I abandoned the role they wrote for me. I cut the part where I deserve air. I chose boundaries and finally stepped into a life that fits. Before saying goodbye, if this story touched your heart, please give it a like and share it with someone who needs to hear this today. Don't forget to subscribe for more true family betrayal stories that reminds us we are stronger than we